Hello, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back. This is Force with some more Elder Scrolls Online discussion. Today's video is going to be a bit more relaxed. I'm not so much focused on one particular topic. I just want to talk with you about the early access launch of Elder Scrolls Online, which is happening in just a day from now. Give you some of my thoughts, give you some suggestions when it comes to picking your character and leveling up, and then finally wrap things up by talking a little bit about my plans for playing ESO, as well as my plans for covering ESO here on the channel. So I'd like to start things off with suggestions. Let's start off by talking about starting your character, picking a character, what you want to do. So I've shown you a variety of different type of character builds, and I've played all the classes, but I've gone the most in-depth into the Nightblade, stamina build with a bow and two-handed weapon, and then of course the Magicka-focused Dragon Knight, like a Pyromancer style. I've had a lot of fun with both of them. Right now at the moment I am leaning towards my Pyromancer Dragon Knight, not just because I find the gameplay pretty fun and satisfying. It's like a short to mid-range caster, but also because I like the idea of being a tank as well, and I like the Dragon Knight tank-focused skill lines, and I think that's going to be something that I will enjoy too. So for the reason, not only having this strong caster DPS, but also having that strong tanking capability, and me liking to be a tank in MMOs, because I'd like to sort of be able to head the charge and run good, fast runs that are efficient and fun as a result. That's what's making me lean in that direction. However, I still love the Nightblade, and that might be an alt character of mine. Now, what about when you pick your character? Well, I put up a couple of videos talking about different types of build ideas and potential, and I do really want to emphasize once more that no matter what class you pick, you do have the potential to fill all roles. Now, some classes will be stronger at a certain role than another class, but that doesn't mean that the potential isn't still there to play around and try those different builds, no matter the class that you select. So my suggestion to you when it comes to picking your class of the 4 that are available is just think about the role that you want, look at their skills that they have in all 3 skill lines, and then decide which class you want to go from there. Now, clearly you can be a Templar healer, but all of the other class can be potent healers with the restoration staff, plus their class skills as support. A great example of that is the Sorcerer is considered an ideal healer for the fact that it never runs out of Magicka, because you've got the ability to quickly replenish your Magicka with the Sorcerer, I believe I think you dump stamina to gain Magicka, and that makes you a great PvE healer. And that's just one example of sort of the different types of combinations. A Nightblade tank seems to be like a pretty popular thing that people are talking about, just because it's got self-healing through the siphoning skill line. And then, you know, obviously we've seen a Dragon Knight caster. Templars, clearly good healers. They've got a dedicated healing skill line that's quite efficient. But on top of that, Templars are actually really good at burst DPS as well. The point is, of any of these things that I'm suggesting, is that there is a lot of variety out there. So just, you know, think about the role, look at the skills of all 3 classes, and then choose from there. Now, when it comes to when you hop into the game, I wouldn't dream of telling anyone how to play, but I will give you some tips and suggestions depending on what you're looking to do. If you are interested in an immersive experience, I really do think that this game has you covered. There's so much dialogue, all of which is voiced for all of the quests and the NPCs that you speak with. There's just a really interesting world to walk through and explore. Not completely open-ended, you can't just walk from one zone to the next. There are loading screens, there are dedicated entrances that you have to walk through. It's not like you can just tiptoe over a mountain into the next zone. It just doesn't work like that. This is, in many ways, a theme park MMO more so than it is a sandboxy MMO, but it does have a little bit of elements of both. Yes, you will be set on a fairly linear path. You are going to be stuck in a particular zone, because if you try to go outside of that zone, the monsters will just be a higher level than you, and chances are you're just going to get your butt kicked. But with what's within that zone, the ride itself, the theme parky ride itself, is an enjoyable one if you're there and interested in being immersed in it. So listen to that dialogue, read those books, walk through the town and hear that NPC chatter. Take some time to enjoy going through crafting. As you venture out into the wilderness and you go into the small dungeons, the group dungeons, and all those things, you'll loot all of the barrels, pick up all your provisioning materials, do all that. There is a huge enriching world for you to explore in the Elder Scrolls Online, once more, if that's the experience that you're looking for. Now on the flip side, if you are someone who's just looking to burn through content, you can certainly do that as well. And tips and suggestions for you would be much more along the lines of efficient leveling. What I would say is try to focus on the quest lines and then do your killing while you're going through the quest lines. From my experience, it is very, very easy to out-level the content just going through an individual zone while leveling up from 1 to 50. I have now done this on 2 separate characters. I leveled my Nightblade up to 50, and I leveled my Dragon Knight, not completely, but I leveled my Dragon Knight up to 47, which basically got me to the final zone, which is Cold Harbor, 45 to 50. I just didn't end up dedicating the time right before the PTS servers shut down, because I was like, I'm just about to lose everything, and I'm not really learning much more and finishing this character out to 50 that I didn't already know when I did it in my Nightblade. But from essentially leveling 2 characters to 50, I can tell you that in that 1 to 50 grind, it is very much so the case that you will encounter quests that you will be out-leveling in an individual zone. So when it comes to leveling up, I would suggest a few things. Number 1, focus on that quest content. Go from quest to quest and just bang it through. Jump into those dungeons, though. When you encounter those torch symbols on your map, go there, because it's a great opportunity to pick up some loot. Majority of the time, there is a Skyshard in these dungeons, and there's also typically quests in them as well. If not at the start, sometimes you'll see an NPC at the start of the dungeon, and you can pick up a quest, and obviously that's another way to gain some extra XP. But even if it's not there, sometimes there's just a quest right at the very end, and like you'll find a book or something, and then they'll have you turn it into an NPC in a nearby town, and that will reward you with some XP. And then obviously there are the Skyshard that you'll find in there. And about finding the Skyshards, whether you're playing immersively or whether you're trying to bliss through the content, don't fret too much about searching for them unless you're just interested in discovering them that way. Because what I'll tell you is that there are already websites, even just in the beta, that have got the full listing of all Skyshards available in the game. So what I have done, and what I did on my second character especially when I was trying to speed run just to check the timing of everything, is that I just went through the zone, I did what I needed to do. You know, I went to each of the individual areas, did all the quests, went into all the mini dungeons, and then come the end of it, before I moved on to the next zone, I went online and I said, all right, these are the Skyshards I'm missing. Went onto the website, and there's a few different ones that are available. I can give you guys the links below. If I don't do it, just remind me in the comments. And yeah, and then I just was able to finish them off. And usually what happened is, just from going through the zone while leveling up, I would find typically 75 to 85% of the Skyshards. I'd only be missing a handful, and then I could finish those off by checking out the internet and finding the locations that way. So don't stress out. Don't be like running around for hours looking for Skyshards unless that's just really how you want to discover them. And if that's how you want to spend your time, then by all means do so. But realize all that information is out there and pretty easy to find. Also, when you're exploring the world, whether or not you're going to be taking your time or blitzing through the content, just a couple of quick tips in terms of things within the environment to take note of. Whenever you pick what crafting profession you want to go down, make sure that you're always looking for those nodes, and a special skill within the crafting skill line lets you find those much easier by putting a glowing effect around them. So that's something you may consider investing a single skill point in once it becomes available. Just makes it a lot easier to find. Also, with your crafting professions, whatever one that you pick, do keep in mind that deconstructing objects within that line is one of the best ways to level it up. Like, actually creating items doesn't give you much experience in a crafting skill line, but breaking down items from that skill line does. So just as an example, if you're looking to level up blacksmithing, breaking down any of the heavy armor or any of the weapons will let you quickly level up in blacksmithing, whereas constructing a sword barely gives you any experience at all. So deconstruction is definitely the way to go. And you know, this could be just a whole tips and hints videos. I'm just trying to give you stuff off the top of my head. When you're exploring through the world, remember that all of the crates and barrels and things of that nature, the urns, all those things just give you provisioning material. So if you don't care to level up provisioning, which is the food that gives you those temporary buffs, increased magicka, health, or stamina, or regeneration for one of those three, if you don't care to level that up, then don't you don't have to waste your time opening up crates and barrels and things like that. Now, what you should focus on, obviously, is the locked chest, because locked chests will give you gear. And then also things like nightstands and desks. These things potentially give you motifs, those racial motifs, which are the ability to craft the different styles of armor. And those are stuff you definitely want to dig into. I think the dressers as well. I think it's dressers, nightstands, and desks. And things like that, those will give you racial motifs. But the crates, the barrels, the tomb urns, those are all just provisioning material. And frankly, on my second character, I didn't loot any of that stuff because I didn't really care to level up provisioning. Now, when it comes to leveling your skills, I think my best suggestion for you would to be try to diversify while you're leveling up. I found that when I stuck to a specific build, usually around level... When I stuck to a specific build with set in mind skills for first and second hotbar, usually around level 40, I started to get excess skill points, and it's at that point that you can start considering investing in some alternate builds, some alternate abilities, and you're also just waiting at that point because you don't quite have the experience to invest all your points in a set skill line while you're leveling it up. So you'll be sitting on these extra skill points that you acquire from certain quest lines, and it's not just main quest lines, certain quest lines within each of the zones for specific towns or whatever will give you skill points, and then the main quest lines, and then also the collection of 3 sky shards, and then of course leveling up. But you'll start to sit on extra skill points around level 40 if you've got a set build in mind and you're just using the same skills for both your hotbars that entire time. So start to diversify, and that even goes for the armor that you wear. I would honestly suggest not going 7 of 7 while you're leveling up for a set type of armor. I guess the best example would just be for me to tell you what I'm gonna do. On my Dragon Knight, I plan to level up with a Magic of Focus, but like I said earlier, I also plan to eventually tank. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 5-piece light, 2-piece heavy, and that's how I'm gonna level up. I'm gonna always make sure I've got 5 light pieces and 2 heavy pieces so I can level up both the light and heavy skill lines. It is at around level 50 that you'll start to cap off some of your skill lines and reach level 50 in those skill lines. And then at that point, there's nowhere for you to go. And if you keep leveling, turning in quests and gaining experience, all of that experience is basically wasted. And remember, level 50 isn't the end game. Veteran rank 10 is the end game, because at level 50 you do not have access to the highest level items and gear, and you do not have access to the highest base attributes. Each veteran rank you gain in all 3 attributes a little bit more, and you get access to higher tier gear. So if you hit level 50 in a skill line once you get to 50, which you will if you just are dedicated to a single skill line and only have skills from that line on your bar, then you're just wasting XP from that point forward. So you could do it, I guess, a multitude of ways. You could focus on a skill line from 1 to 50. Once you cap that skill line at level 50, you can then completely switch your build, but then all of a sudden you're switching to a weaker build that you just don't have as many points invested into, and you're gonna have to go into veteran rank content with that build. So I would suggest the best thing to do is diversify as much as possible. At the very least, go 5 of one armor set and 2 of another. So here's an example. If you want to be a stamina build, maybe go 5 medium and 2 light. With the 2 light pieces of armor, increasing your magicka capabilities from the light armor skill line. And obviously, if you're using any class skills, no matter how much of a stamina build you have, you're probably using some of your class skills. Those will scale up with your magicka increase. And so that's a good way to balance it. Or you could go 5 medium, 2 heavy, or 5 heavy and 2 light, or 5 heavy and 2 medium. But 5 and 2 is probably a decent split. You might even want to consider going 5, 1, and 1 if you have any inclination at any point to be using one of all 3 of the armor types. Of course, that being light, medium, and heavy. Splitting things up, and not just with your armor, but also with the skills that you have on your bar. Because remember, when you're turning in quest and when you're leveling, you get a big boost when you turn in quest. By the way, remember that, depending on what's on your skill bar and the armor that you're wearing. So diversify what's on your skill bar between your different skill lines and the weapon skill lines, and diversify the armor that you're wearing, because once you hit that level 50 cap in a skill line, then you've got nowhere to go from there, and you're essentially wasting potential experience gain in another skill line. Diversify, diversify, diversify. It's going to make things a lot easier once you hit veteran rank 10 and you're all out of quests to do. You're going to have a lot more options if you've leveled up that many more skill lines. So I guess that's going to do it for the tips, because I could probably talk for like an hour about different suggestions and tips to do, but those are some of the more pressing ones that come to mind for you guys once we get this game started and once we get underway. So keep all those things in mind, and yeah, there you go. Now onto my thoughts on the game. Well, I think it kind of goes without saying, I do like playing the Elder Scrolls Online, and I do feel like a broken record at this point, because I always say this whenever I compliment the game. I always have to come back by saying that I don't think it's perfect, and I almost feel that that's unnecessary. It feels like I'm trying to defend myself against the trolls, to be honest with you, but I think it's a fair statement. You know, it's not the perfect MMO, but I really, really like it, and I have a really fun time playing it, and after 250 hours of playtime, I still can't wait to dive in on Sunday morning, and I'm going to be streaming all day. I plan to stream all day. I plan to, I've already been through all the story of the Aldmeri Dominion. I'm going to be playing on the Aldmeri Dominion, but I can't wait to jump into it, you know? And I do plan to blitz through the content, so if you watch the stream, don't be surprised if you're like, he's skipping all the story stuff, and he suggested listening to the story stuff. Just keep in mind that I've already experienced it, and there's no reason for me really to experience it the second time. I'm more interested in getting to endgame, doing that veteran rank content, and doing that high-end PvP with the max potential weapons and armor available. That's the stuff that interests me at this point. But I love this story. I had a great time going through it, and I definitely do suggest, if you're interested in that aspect, doing it. But yeah, I like this game. I like it a lot. Combat could still use a little work. It's not as responsive as I would prefer. But it's not terrible, but it isn't the best. It isn't the best, most fluid action combat system. It's not the best, most fluid tab target system. And I mentioned both of those because the soft locking system that is implemented is supposed to be a meshing of those two. And I don't think it feels perfect for either one, but it feels decent enough. It feels okay, and hopefully this is something that they can fine-tune in the coming months, in the coming years. I mean, who knows how long I will keep playing it, but at the moment, right now, in time, I'm having a fantastic time with this game, and I can't wait to hop back in. So, and this isn't meant to be a review or anything, just expressing and sort of reiterating what I've touched on before, that I do like the game. I don't think it's perfect. I do think there's room for improvement. I don't think they've always made the best decisions, especially when it comes to some of the business model stuff. No, I don't mind the box price plus a sub fee, but yes, I do mind the locked race, and I'm not too thrilled that they're already spending time on a cash shop for a game that's not even launching. And yes, it's just basically a horse skin, and yes, it's just a base level horse. It's not even the fastest potential horse in the game. That will only come from in-game. But the fact that they're even investing any development time in that just isn't thrilling to me. And it also makes me wonder if they're just setting up for the potential failure of having to go free to play, and they're preparing for that as early as possible, which I wouldn't, you know, begrudge anyone for being prepared for the worst, but still, it doesn't bode well for their confidence, and it just doesn't make me too necessarily happy. But that is, of course, just my opinion. And with all of that stuff aside, and more, there's more than I'm mentioning here that I think could use improvement in the game. But again, this isn't meant to be a review. Just everything summed together still results in me being excited and I just can't wait to jump in. I can't wait to jump in. I can't wait to play. I can't wait to see you guys in game and do everything that it has to offer. And now with that, we'll go into what are my plans for the Elder Scrolls Online. So when it comes to my plans in terms of playing the game, this is basically what I predict is going to happen. Starting on Sunday, I'm going to be hopping into the early access. Like I said, I'm going to stream that all day, but I'm going to be blitzing. I plan to get up to veteran rank 10 pretty much as fast as I possibly can. Now, I'm not going to be able to devote a crazy amount of time on Sunday. I will be doing it all day, but also throughout the week, I've got a lot of other games that I cover, and I've got a lot of other content that I do here on YouTube, so time will be diverted away from ESO for the focus on the Force feed, and Diablo 3 is going on right now. Of course, we've got Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm. There's a lot, again, there's a lot of things I do, there's a lot of things I cover, but I'm going to have a huge focus on ESO, and I'm definitely planning to devote time every single day, probably a fair amount of time every single day, into leveling up my character, doing dungeons, doing PvE, doing PvP, getting to endgame as soon as possible. That is what I plan to do. Now, that is also going to include you guys. I've had a lot of you following and excited about the Elder Scrolls Online, and I appreciate your viewership, and I'm also looking for people to play with. So, with that said, when I'm in game, if you see me wandering around, if you see me looking for stuff to do or needing dungeon partners, feel free to just hop in the group with me and let's do it. Like, I'm looking for people to play with. Truth is, a lot of my friends don't really play MMOs anymore. That's just the fact of the matter. They've moved on to different genres, they've moved on to different things with their life, and they're just not into that space because it does take a pretty big time commitment. And probably the only reason I'm able to do something like I'm doing now with a game like this is because my job revolves around covering games, and so I sort of can afford the time to do that. But yeah, you know, I'm probably going to start up a guild. I've had a lot of people ask about that, and I don't know about like being a guild leader and setting up raid times and all of that, but I think at the very least I'll get something initiated, and we can have people in the guild, and we can, you know, we're in the same level range, we can do dungeons together, or quests together, or do whatever, but maybe we'll have someone else organize it. Maybe once some obvious community leaders come up, we can have those people be, I don't know, what's the name of it, just guild leaders or whatever like that. It's been so long since my organized guild time in an MMO, which pretty much was in World of Warcraft. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago was the last time I was in like a dedicated type guild. But yeah, I think I'll do it just for fun at the very least. Remember, in ESO you can be in up to 5 guilds at a time. So you can be in like a casual guild, you can be in a dedicated guild. You've got a bunch of different options. At the very least, I think we'll start this off as a community guild. We'll see where it goes from there. We'll see how long I stay interested in ESO. And however long that is, if you want to be in the guild, just shoot me a message in game, or you'll probably, I don't know if they're gonna be, I don't even know you're gonna be able to see guild tags. I don't even know how that system is gonna work in this game. I was in a guild in the PTS, but I don't remember ever seeing a guild tag because there are no nameplates. So I don't know, I'll give you more information once launch happens, and obviously you can check out the live stream to see the specifics of what's going to revolve around that. Now, in terms of my plans for coverage here on YouTube, I'm essentially looking at doing some guides. Like I mentioned, I do plan to level up fairly quickly, and in that process I'll be going through the dungeons, and I'll be going through the veteran rank content, and my initial plans are to give tips and hints in terms of guide videos, and also show off dungeons, talk about the different boss mechanics, and just talk about my experience. And, you know, again, how far I go down this rabbit hole and how far I get into ESO is going to dictate what type of coverage we do here on the channel. I can't promise that I'm going to play this game come a month from now. Just the nature of what I do, all the different games that I play, it can be pretty fickle because there's a lot of stuff I'm interested in, there's a lot of stuff I like to spend time with, and all that pulls away from other things, of course, because there's only so much time in the day. However, so long as I'm still playing, so long as I'm still really into it, there will be coverage on the channel, guides in particular, and then also just opinion pieces and conversational pieces, sort of like what this video is here. And I guess that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks so much for sitting down for a couple 20 or so minutes, listening to me talk about the Elder Scrolls Online and show you some gameplay footage. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I will see you guys on Sunday. Big old live stream. I'll be doing that all day, so please be sure to stop on into the live stream, say hello, and if you see me in game, stop by and say hello as well. Also, please don't mind, I probably get a lot of messages, so I might not respond to everyone, but you know that I appreciate it nonetheless. Alright guys, thanks so much. I hope you have a great weekend. Just a couple more hours until we hop into early access of the Elder Scrolls Online. I am excited. I hope you are as well. I'll see you guys in Tamriel. Keep watching and keep owning.
Who? Help from the sun? Oh! Use these harps to teach me the tune.